We've got the Republican nominee for governor for the Commonwealth of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, joining us now. And Mr. Youngkin, thank you so much for being here. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Larry and Amber. How's everybody this morning?
Well, we're great, and we were so excited to hear from you today because, let's face it, one of the things I admire about the way you ran for the nomination is that you were not running against other Republicans. You had a lot in common with them. You united so many of the Republican voters during the nomination process. You, from day one, have been running against Terry McAuliffe, and now it's official. He's your opponent. Tell me where you're going from here to Election Day.
Well, we came out of our convention with an enormous amount of momentum, and Larry, you're 100% right. The Republican Party has really come together. I mean, I was endorsed by all three of the Republican governors this week, and national endorsements have come in all over, and that has been an enormous amount of momentum coming into now, which is going to be a real sprint for the next 3.5 months. And let's just remind everybody that this voting season will start on September the 18th. And so here we go. And I'm just glad that the Democrats have gotten their team settled. Good luck to them, because we have a heck of a team with me and Winsome Sears and Jason Miyares, and we're running hard. And the big reality right now is that the Democrat and the left liberal side of the Democrat Party that has dragged them so off the map is on the wrong side with Terry McAuliffe of every issue that Virginians are most worried about. And that's absolutely the economy and jobs, where Terry wants to get rid of right to work. It's our schools, where Terry said nothing about getting them open and has absolutely been deathly silent on critical race theory, and we have to get it out of our schools. And on safe communities, where Terry has actually said he wants to get rid of qualified immunity, which is really one of the underpinnings to our law enforcement feeling like they can do their job. We're going to have massive retirements when he gets rid of that if he were elected governor. And he's on the wrong side of every one of these issues, and that's why Virginians, Larry, have come together like never before, Republicans, independents, and Democrats, and said, Glenn Youngkin, we're for you, and we're going to elect you governor in November.
Glenn Youngkin is our guest, youngkinforgovernor.com, youngkinforgovernor.com. And I want to just follow up on one issue there with regard to critical race theory in our schools, because you have focused on this. You've spoken out about what's going on in Northern Virginia, Loudoun County, Fairfax County, and you even, over the last several days, embraced the cause of this teacher, Tanner Cross, who had been suspended for speaking his mind, utilizing his First Amendment rights, his right to speech, his right to faith. He has been reinstated. But the fact that you embraced Mr. Cross and this issue tells me that you think this speaks larger about where Virginia is going and where Terry McAuliffe and his party is leading it, sir.
Yeah, Larry, it has everything to do with the excellence in education that has historically been a hallmark of Virginia. It's why so many people moved to Virginia over many years, and it's one of the reasons why people are leaving Virginia now, is that the left liberal leadership out of Richmond and that Terry McAuliffe wants to carry forward has decided that teachers' unions and teaching our kids what to think as opposed to how to think absolutely supersedes excellence in education. And we can see it all over the place. We can see it in that leaked memo that wanted to stop teaching accelerated math to kids before 11th grade and stop awarding advanced diplomas, which they ran back from like crazy. But by the way, they want to press forward in Fairfax County schools with it. We can see it in the way parents are standing up all over Virginia, but particularly in Northern Virginia, and saying, no, we do not want our schools undermined, not just because the teachers' unions won't open them, but the curriculum has gone haywire. And now we're actually seeing people stand up at school board meetings, and we see Tanner Cross stand up and say, I won't teach it. It violates my religious beliefs, and then put on administrative leave for expressing himself in a nation and in a state that actually is underpinned by our freedom of speech. And he was canceled immediately, not by his principal, not by the leader of the school that he teaches in, but by the school board. And then last night we saw another brave Fairfax County teacher stand up and say, enough is enough. This is really a movement, not just in Republican circles, but across parent groups across Virginia. And the sad thing is that right now there's no one else standing up for our kids in this cultural war that is being waged in our schools other than the parents and the teachers. And thank goodness they're there, because no politician has stood up for them. Terry McAuliffe has said nothing. In fact, his silence has been deafening, and we've watched what's coming out of Richmond only move further left. And I cannot wait until September 18th when this election starts to win this fall in November and actually stand up for our students and our teachers and say, no, we are not going to allow critical race theory in our school, and we're going to press forward with excellence in education so that Virginia's kids can be the best they can be.
Your opponent, Terry McAuliffe, came right out of the gate launching attacks on you. And we want to play a clip for you from one of the things that he said, accusing you of embracing Trump's quote-unquote conspiracy theory. Here it is.
Listen to McAuliffe last
Glenn Youngkin, literally, folks, has one policy. One, an election integrity plan based on Donald Trump's conspiracy theory about the 2020 election. That is all he has.
Why does he oppose election integrity? That's odd. Go ahead, Amber.
Yeah, can we get your response to that, Glenn?
Well, what I love about that is you only heard one boo because there was probably only one person in the room when Terry when he said that. And then, second of all, Terry in 2000 after George W. Bush actually defeated Al Gore, he was the one who came out and said they took the election from me. So let's just be clear. The truth has never stood in his way in anything that he says. And the reality is that Terry's on the wrong side of all of the most important issues for Virginians, the economy and jobs, schools, public safety. And so, therefore, he has to go to a topic that a career political hack has to go to. He's been doing this for 40 years with his mentors, Bill and Hillary Clinton, actually teaching him along the way. And this is where he's going. But the reality is that election integrity is not a Republican issue, and it's not a Democrat issue. It's a democracy issue. And we do need to invest in our election process so that Virginians have faith in the outcomes. And we watched what happened in Florida after the famous hanging Chad incident, and they invested in their process. And oh, by the way, they were the very first state to tabulate and report their election results in November this past year, and not a question was asked. And that's the kind of election system that Virginia should have. And this is what absolutely makes me laugh about Terry. He absolutely has only one playbook, and that is to try to divide and cast disparagement, as opposed to talk about the most important issues, which he can't, because he absolutely wants to get rid of right to work. He has not stood up for families and students in our school system, and he has absolutely undermined our law enforcement to the point where when he was governor, the murder rate in Virginia went up 43%. So he doesn't want to talk about these issues. He just wants to go someplace that, in his mind, allows him to divide Virginians. And I'm going to bring Virginians together, and we are going to win in November, and we're going to get this great Commonwealth moving again.
Glenn Youngkin, I am going to ask you a question that I promised myself I wouldn't ask it until this very moment, because I like to talk about issues. I like to talk about what matters most to Virginians. But now we've got, it's mano a mano. It's you versus Terry McAuliffe, and this is about who's going to win this election. Terry McAuliffe, if he's got one skill set, sir, if it's not, throwing mud and sliming people, it's raising money. And you, sir, you are a very wealthy man. And I think people took into account that you made a lot of money with the Carlyle Group. You're a self-made man. And I think that there's some question out there as to whether how much are you willing to spend here, because he's going to raise so much from so many interest groups from around the country. Are you ready to match him dollar for dollar?
Well, first and foremost, I have had the amazing blessing of living the American dream right here in Virginia. And I want to make sure that all Virginia kids can dream their biggest dream and then go get it. And that's what Virginia is about. And yes, I've had more good days than bad days as a result of a lot of hard work. And yes, some real opportunities along the way. And we're going to make sure this campaign is resourced well to go head-to-head with the Terry McAuliffe machine. But I will also add, we have an enormous amount of support, a groundswell of support across Virginia and across the country, because everyone recognizes how important this race is. The future of Virginia hangs in the balance. Are we going to continue to lurch left and drag Virginia off the map where centralized government gets to dictate everything in our lives? Or are we going to unleash the human spirit and actually create an economic and business environment where businesses grow and there's more jobs than people can take, and our educational institutions are teaching our kids how to think and can go head-to-head with kids across the country and around the world? We're going to have safe communities where, in fact, people don't worry about criminals who get sent to jail for violent crimes and are sentenced to life without parole, aren't back on the streets because a Terry McAuliffe appointed parole board lets them out. And oh, by the way, they commit crimes again and need to go right back and absolutely burden our society again. This could not be a more distinct difference in what I stand for and what Terry McAuliffe stands for, and we're going to make sure that we have the resources in order to educate everyone across Virginia that elections have consequences.
Yeah.
The consequences for Virginians have been absolutely crushing for the last 8 years, and we're about to make a big stand, and Virginia's going to head in a different direction, and there's going to be a shockwave that goes through this country to say no. This left liberal agenda, which is absolutely ruining our country and Virginia, is going to come to a stop, and Americans are watching this because Virginians' history is America's history, and Virginia's future will be America's future.
It is on, Virginia. It's Youngkin versus McAuliffe between now and Election Day. We'll hear from hopefully both of them here on O'Connor and Company. And please promise me, Mr. Youngkin, you're not going to dance on the stump. I've seen way too many videos of McAuliffe dancing. You're not going to dance for us, right? You promise?
I promise I won't dance. And the best thing is that when Terry was dancing, there was only 3 people there watching. Again.
Dance like nobody's watching, right?
Because nobody is.
Thank you, Glenn Youngkin.
No, you can guarantee that if I dance, I'm going to dance better than that.
All right, there we go. Thank you, sir. YoungkinforGovernor.com.